Okay, so hey Reddit, my name's Alara, I'm 29 years old and I live in Arizona. I guess I should just dive right in because I really don't even know how else to start this. It's not like I can tell my friends about this, at least not without leaving some parts out. So yeah, here I am putting my business on the internet like every other train wreck you can't look away from. I've been married to my husband Declan for 7 years. He's 36 a total. Blue collar guy, and works as is a foreman for this construction company. He's the kind of guy that everybody likes, super chill, easy to talk to, and always willing to lend a hand. He makes good money too, like way more than I ever could. I work at this boring call center answering phones and doing paperwork. So I'm not exactly rolling in cash on my own, but Declan's never made me feel bad about that. He's the provider, and honestly, he takes a lot of pride in it when he's not working. Declan's all about cars like, the man could live in our garage if I let him fixing up old engines, watching YouTube videos about the newest trucks. It's his thing. I've always thought it was cute, even if it means I'm the one stuck inside doing all the cleaning while he's out there doing guy stuff, but whatever. That's just how our dynamic is. He's the serious, reliable one, and well, I guess I'd call myself the fun one. I like going out trying new things, meeting new people. I'll admit I'm not the most mature person, but I don't think that's a bad thing, Declan says. I make life exciting, which I guess is his nice way of saying I don't really think things through anyway. We've got a 4-year-old son, Caleb, who's basically the light of my life. He's adorable and wild and honestly keeps me sane. Most days I love being his mom, but I'll be real with you. I'm not exactly the picture of the perfect mom-wife combo. I do my best, but I'm not baking cookies from scratch or scrubbing baseboards on my days off. I'm more of keep the kid alive and happy kind of mom. And Declan picks up the slack. Where I drop it, we make it work. Or at least I thought we did. This all started with my work? Husband? Yeah, I know how that sounds, trust me. I do. His name's Reese and he's my age 29. We started working together last year and we just clicked. He's hilarious, always cracking jokes in the break room, and he makes work way less boring. He's married too, by the way, so it's not like I'm some homewrecker. I mean, his wife is this super sweet stay-at-home mom who's probably baking cookies for their kids right now. But whatever, that's not the point. The point is, Reese and I are just friends. Or at least that's what I keep telling myself. I know people at work like to gossip about us. Someone actually called him my work husband once, and I just laughed it off. Because, come on, that's ridiculous. Right? Sure. We text a lot. And yeah, I might have vented to him about Declan a few times when I was mad, but that's what friends do. Reese just gets me in a way Declan doesn't. Sometimes, like, Declan's a great husband, but he's not exactly Mr. Emotional Support. Reese, on the other hand, listens. He remembers the little things I say. He makes me feel heard, which is more than I can say for Declan these days. The thing is, I don't think Declan even realizes how distant he's been. He works long hours, and when he's home, he's either with Caleb or in the garage. He's not ignoring me on purpose. He's just tired, but still it sucks feeling like I'm at the bottom of his priority list. I've tried to talk to him about it before, but it always ends the same way. He says he's providing for us, that he's doing everything he can to give us a good life, and I'm just being selfish, so I stopped bringing it up, and I guess that's when I started leaning on Reese more at first. It was harmless. We'd grab coffee after work or sit together during lunch. Sometimes he'd give me a ride home if my car was acting up, which Declan didn't even question because he trusts me, but lately I don't know. It's like I've started looking forward to seeing Reese more than I look forward to seeing Declan, and that's messed up. Isn't it? Like, I know it is, but at the same time, it's not like I'm doing anything wrong. Reese and I are just friends. Declan doesn't know about Reese. Not really. He's heard me mention him in passing, but I don't think he's ever put much thought into it the other day. Though he overheard me on the phone with a friend and she asked about Reese by name, Declan didn't say anything on the time, but I could tell it bothered him. He got all quiet and kind of shut down, which isn't like him. But when I asked if something was wrong, he just said he was tired. I didn't push it since then. I've noticed him watching me more, like when I'm on my phone or heading out the door, he gets this look on his face like he's trying to figure me out. I hate it. It makes me feel guilty, even though I haven't done anything wrong. I've told myself over and over that I wouldn't cross a line with Reese, but lately, the Line's been feeling a little blurry. It's been a few weeks since that phone call, and things with Declan have only gotten weirder. He's always been the laid-back type, but now it's like he's keeping tabs on me. He never used to ask where I was going or who I was with, but lately he's been all about the details. Who are you texting? How late is this thing going to be? You're riding with Sarah again. Right, yeah. About that last part, I've been carpooling with Reese a lot more. At first it was because Sarah, my actual carpool buddy, got moved to a different shift I didn't see. The big deal. Reese and I live near each other, so it just made sense. It's not like we're doing anything. I mean, what was I supposed to do? Drive myself and waste gas when Reese was offering. It's practical, really, but here's the thing. I told Declan I was still carpooling with Sarah, and I know that sounds bad, but I just didn't want to deal with the whole who's Reese conversation. It's not like Declan would get it. He's not the jealous type, but he can be weird about stuff like this. He'd overthink it, and I didn't feel like dealing with that. So yeah, I lied a little white lie, no harm, no foul. Except now it's starting to feel like Declan knows something's up. Last Friday, Reese dropped me off late because we stopped to grab drinks. After work, nothing crazy, just a couple beers at this hole-in-the-wall bar we both like, but when I got home, Declan was sitting on the couch waiting. He never does that. Usually he's out in the garage or already in bed by the time I get home. He asked me why I was late and I froze. I'm a terrible liar, but I tried anyway. I told him Sarah and I had stopped to get food, but I don't think he bought it. He just nodded real slow and went back to watching TV. No fight, no accusations, nothing, and honestly, that made me. I feel worse than if he'd yelled at me. It's like he's giving me enough rope to hang myself with, and I hate it. Meanwhile, things with Reese have been complicated. He's been texting me more, even on weekends stuff, like what are you up to or wish you were here? I know I should shut it down, but part of me doesn't want to. It feels nice to be wanted, to have someone who actually seems excited to talk to me. With Declan, everything's become so routine. We don't go on dates anymore half the time. We barely even talk unless it's about Caleb or our bills, but with Reese it's different. He makes me feel alive again. The other day at work, he brought me coffee just because I know it's a small thing, but it meant a lot to me. And when he handed it to me, he gave me this look like I wasn't just some tired mom in a boring job, like I was someone special. I don't even remember the last time Declan looked at me like that. Of course, I've tried to convince myself that it's all innocent, but deep down it's not. I mean, Reese doesn't treat the other women at work the way he treats me, and I don't exactly act the same around him as I do with my other guy friends. I've caught myself checking my reflection before he picks me up, making sure I look good. Not for Declan, but for Reese, and that scares me. Last night, things took a turn. Declan told me he was working overtime today, so I figured I'd have the morning to myself. But when Reese came to pick me up, Declan's truck was still in the driveway. My heart dropped. Hadn't even thought to text Reese and tell him to stay out of sight. Declan was in the garage, so I thought maybe he wouldn't notice. But as soon as I got in Reese's car, I saw the garage door open, and there was Declan standing. And there, just watching us. I tried to play it cool, waving at him like nothing was wrong, but he didn't wave back. He just stared. Reese looked over at me and asked if everything was okay, and I said it was. Even though my stomach was in knots as we pulled out of the driveway, I couldn't bring myself to look back. When I got to work, I checked my phone, expecting some angry text from Declan, but there was nothing. Radio silence. I told myself maybe he didn't recognize Reese, but who am I kidding? Declan's not an idiot. He knows I've been lying, and now I don't even know what to say to him. Do I come clean? Do I double down and hope he lets it go? I keep telling myself it's not like I'm cheating, but at this point I don't even know if that's true. When I got home, Declan wasn't there. He didn't leave a note. Didn't text me, nothing, just gone. I tried calling him, but he didn't pick up. Later that night, he finally came home, but he barely said 2 words to me before heading to bed. He didn't even kiss me goodnight. I could tell he was hurt, but instead of apologizing, I just acted like nothing was wrong. I don't know why I do that. Pretend everything's fine when it's clearly not. Maybe because if I admit I'm wrong, it makes it real. I know I'm messing up, I know I'm being selfish, but part of me can't stop. It's like I'm stuck in this cycle of wanting more but not wanting to deal with the consequences, and now I feel like I'm one bad decision away from blowing up my whole life. I just don't. I know what to do after a few days of walking on eggshells around Declan. I couldn't take it anymore. The tension was suffocating, and every time he looked at me with those quiet, knowing eyes, it was like he was daring me to come clean, but I couldn't. I wouldn't. I kept telling myself it wasn't a big deal, that I hadn't done anything wrong. At least not until tonight. It started with Reese texting me during my lunch break. He asked if I wanted to hang out after work, maybe grab dinner or just talk. I told him I couldn't that. Things at home were tense, but he didn't let up. You need a break, he said. Come on, I'll make you feel better. I knew I should have said no, but I didn't, and before I knew it, I was sitting in his car in some empty parking lot trying to justify why this wasn't a terrible idea. It happened so fast that I barely even remember the lead up. One minute we were talking, and the next his hands were on me, and I didn't stop him. I didn't want to, and when it was over, I hated myself for how good it felt, for how much I enjoyed it. Reese made me feel things Declan hasn't in for years, and that realization hit me harder than I expected. I sat there in silence, staring out the window, while Reese tried to lighten the mood with his usual jokes, but I wasn't laughing when I got home. Declan was already sitting at the kitchen table, his arms crossed and his face unreadable. My heart sank. He didn't even look up when I walked in, just stared down at the table like he was trying to piece something together in his head. Who picked you up this morning? He asked, his voice low but steady. What, I said, trying to play dumb. I told you, Sarah, don't, he interrupted, finally looking at me. His eyes weren't angry, they were tired, defeated. I gave you enough time to come clean, Alara. That wasn't Sarah, it hasn't been. Sarah? For weeks my stomach flipped, but I forced myself to keep my cool. You're being ridiculous. You're acting so insecure over nothing. Insecure, he said, standing up and leaning on the table. Alara, I'm not stupid, I've seen. The way you've been acting, you're on your phone all the time. I'm lying about where you're going, who you're with. I saw the guy who picked you up this morning. That wasn't Sarah. I laughed, but it came out shaky. Oh my God, Declan, you're blowing this way out of proportion. Nothing happened. You're making yourself crazy for no reason. Then why are you lying? He shot back. Why not just tell me the truth? If it's no big deal, if nothing happened, why could you just say who he was? Because I knew you'd act like this. Yelled, my voice cracking. You're paranoid. Declan, he's just a friend. Okay. A friend who's helping me out because Sarah can't anymore. That's it, he shook his head, his jaw tightening. You think I'm an idiot, don't you? You think you can stand there and lie to my face and I'm just going to believe you? If he's just a friend, why did you hide him? Why did you lie about carpooling with Sarah? Why did you come home late the other night and pretend like it was nothing? I opened my mouth to respond, but nothing came. Out, he wasn't yelling. He wasn't even angry. He was calm, logical, and that made it so much worse. He wasn't giving me any room to wiggle out of this. Alara, he said, his voice softening. I've been nothing but good to you. I've worked my ass off to give you and Caleb and everything you need. I've trusted you, and this is how you repay me, by sneaking around and lying to me. Tears welled up in my eyes, but I blinked them away. I'm not sneaking around. I'm not doing anything wrong. You're just stop, he said. Cutting me off again. You are doing something wrong. You're lying to me? You're spending time with another man and hiding it. You're sneaking out of this house like a teenager and acting like I'm the crazy one for noticing. I stood there silent as he stared at me, waiting for me to say something, anything that could make this right. But I couldn't. I had nothing, finally. He sighed and walked past me toward the bedroom. I'm done arguing if you can't be honest with me. I don't know how we move forward. I stood in the kitchen for what felt like hours, my chest tightening with every passing second. I wanted to scream, to cry, to beg him to forgive me, but I didn't. Instead, I picked up my phone and called Reese. He didn't hesitate when I asked him to come get me. I'll be there in 20, he said. And that was it. No questions, no judgment, just him being there when I needed him. Unlike Declan, who was still in the bedroom, probably planning how to make me feel like the worst person alive. When Reese pulled up, I grabbed my purse and headed for the door. Declan was standing in the living room now, his arms crossed as he watched me. So that's him, he asked, nodding toward the headlights outside. I didn't answer. I couldn't. I just stood there, my hand on the doorknob, feeling his eyes burn into me. You think, this is going to end well for you, he said, his voice calm but icy. You think he's going to be there for you when this all blows up in your face? Good luck with that. I opened the door without looking back as I climbed into Reese's car. I caught a glimpse of Declan standing in the doorway, his face blank, but his eyes full of something I couldn't quite place, disappointment maybe. Or maybe he was just done. The first 2 nights at the hotel were a blur. Reese had paid for the room, saying it was the least he could do. But he hadn't stuck around much. I guess I'd expected something more. Maybe him staying with me, reassuring me that I'd done the right thing by leaving, but after he dropped me off, his texts became shorter, his calls less frequent. I told myself this was just temporary. I needed time to think, to figure out what to do next. By the third day, the cracks in my plan were already showing. I hadn't brought enough clothes, and I was starting to feel embarrassed, walking into work in the same outfit. Every day, my coworkers definitely noticed. And the whispers were hard to ignore. Even Reese seemed more distant when I saw him in the break room, avoiding eye contact and keeping our conversations brief. I didn't ask for more, though. I didn't want to seem desperate. It hit me on that third night, lying in the lumpy hotel bed and staring at the stained ceiling. I hadn't thought any of this through. I'd blown up my marriage, my home, my stability. All for what? For a guy who couldn't even bother to stay in the same room as me after 2 nights for a fling. That felt exciting for a moment, but now just felt hollow, my stomach. Twisted as I thought about Declan, about Caleb, about the life I'd walked away from, I decided I needed to go. Back home, not to grovel. At least that's what I told myself, but to talk to Declan, to explain everything. Maybe we could fix this. Maybe he'd still listen to me, even if he was furious. He didn't know I'd slept with Reese. That was a secret I'd take to the grave, but I had to try. I couldn't just let it end like this. The next evening, I walked into the house with my heart in my throat. I'd half expected to find Declan sitting in the living room ready to argue, but instead, the house was quiet, too quiet. Caleb's toys were still scattered around the floor, and for a moment it felt like everything was normal, but then I saw the envelope on the kitchen table with my name written in Declan's handwriting. My hands were shaking as I opened it, and when I saw the words divorce petition, my breath caught in my chest. I skimmed the pages, not even understanding half of the legal jargon, but the message was clear. Declan was done. I sank into a chair, staring at the papers, waiting for him to walk in and tell me it was a joke, that he just wanted me to sweat for a bit. But he didn't. The front door opened, and there he was, holding Caleb's hand as they came in from the garage. Declan didn't even look surprised to see me. If anything, he looked relieved. "So you're back," he said, setting Caleb's backpack down. His voice was calm, like he was talking to a neighbor, not the woman he just handed divorce papers to. I wanted to talk." I stammered, my voice cracking. "Declan, we can work this out. There's nothing to talk about." He interrupted, cutting me off like he had in our last argument. "I've thought about this long enough. You made your choices, Alara. Now I'm making mine." Tears welled up in my eyes. "You don't even know the whole story, can't we?" "At least I know enough," he said firmly. "You lied to me over and over. You left without even trying to fix things. That's all I need to know." I opened my mouth to argue, but the look on his face stopped me. He was done, checked out. The man who had once looked at me like I was his whole world now looked at me like I was a stranger. My chest tightened as I realized there was no saving this, no fixing it. He was really divorcing me. I broke down, then sobbing like a child. Right there at the kitchen table, Caleb clung to Declan's leg, staring at me with wide, confused eyes. And Declan quietly led him to his room before coming back to the table. He didn't say anything, didn't comfort me, didn't even look angry. He just stood there waiting for me to pull myself together. That was the last real conversation we had before the divorce was finalized. It all happened so fast. Declan had clearly been preparing for this. The moment I left, within a month, we were officially separated, and I moved into a tiny apartment on the other side of town. Reese came over once or twice, but the visits were awkward, rushed. He wasn't the fun, carefree guy I'd thought he was. He was stressed, distant, and when I told him I was pregnant, his face turned pale. "Are you sure it's mine?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I wanted to slap him. Of course it was his. Declan and I hadn't been intimate in months, and Reese knew that, but I didn't say anything. I just nodded, and the silence that followed said everything. He didn't want this. He didn't want me. Over the next few weeks, Reese stopped texting as much. When I tried calling, he wouldn't answer at work. He avoided me entirely. I heard through the grapevine that his wife was suspicious, and he was doing everything he could to smooth things over at home. I couldn't even blame him. I destroyed my own marriage. Why Wouldn't he try to save his? So here I am, single, divorced, pregnant, and completely alone. I've replayed everything a million times in my head, trying to figure out where it all went wrong. Declan wasn't perfect, but he didn't deserve this, and Reese, he was just a fantasy. Something to make me feel alive again when I should have been working on my own life, instead of chasing something that was never real. Still, part of me blames Declan if he just listened to me. More, if he'd paid more attention, maybe I wouldn't have looked elsewhere. Maybe I wouldn't have felt so alone, but deep down, I know that's not fair. He trusted me, and I broke that trust. I made the choices that led me here. I just can't bring myself to say it out loud. Now all I can do is try to move forward for the baby, for Caleb, for myself. But some nights when I'm lying in bed staring at the ceiling of this tiny, suffocating apartment, I can't help but wonder if I'll ever stop feeling Ali. Like I ruined everything.